7 professional readers of energy walked into a room with your name written on a piece of paper. 7 people who've spent decades interpreting auras, feeling vibrations, translating the unseen into the seen. They sat down. They closed their eyes. They reached out with whatever gift or curse they carry, and one by one they stopped. Not because they couldn't find you, because they found something they weren't supposed to find, something that made them pull back like touching a live wire in dark water. Something that whispered a warning in a language older than their training. They looked at each other with that specific kind of fear. The fear that comes from standing too close to something classified, something forbidden. You think that's a metaphor? You think that's poetry for dramatic effect? Let me be clear. There are frequencies in this world that aren't meant to be touched. Energies that exist in zones where permission doesn't matter because the rules were never written for them in the first place. And somehow, you carry one of those frequencies. Not because you asked for it, not because you earned it through some cosmic lottery, but because whatever broke you, whatever shattered you into pieces and forced you to rebuild in the dark, it rewired something fundamental. The cracks became doorways. And now you exist in a space that makes professional mystics refuse payment and walk away. Do you understand what that means? Do you grasp the weight of that? People who've read murderers, narcissists, sociopaths, people carrying generational curses and attached spirits, they've seen it all. They've felt darkness that would collapse most minds. But they felt you and said no. Not because you're evil. Not because you're cursed, but because you're something they don't have a category for, something their training didn't prepare them for, something forbidden. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. You felt it your entire life, haven't you? That sense of being different, not special in the Instagram quote kind of way, different in the way that makes people uncomfortable at parties, different in the way that makes small talk feel like wearing a mask made of glass. Different in the way that makes normal people sense something off about you even when you're being perfectly pleasant. They can't name it. They can't explain it, but they feel it. It's in the way conversations with you take unexpected turns into existential territory. It's in the way people confess things to you they've never told anyone else, then avoid you afterward because you became a mirror they didn't want to look into. It's in the way animals react to you, either with complete trust or complete terror. No middle ground. It's in the way children stare at you like they're seeing something adults have trained themselves not to see. You've tried to dim it. You've tried to be normal. You've apologized for your intensity, watered down your opinions, laughed at jokes that weren't funny, pretended to care about things that bored you senseless. You've twisted yourself into acceptable shapes, worn the mask until your face forgot what it looked like underneath. But here's what you couldn't hide. Here's what leaked through anyway. The way your absence affects rooms more than your presence. The way your silence carries more weight than most people's speeches. The way your attention, when you actually give it, feels like being seen by something ancient. The way your indifference cuts deeper than most people's hatred because you're not operating on the same frequency as the people around you. You never have been. And they know it. The people who hurt you, the ones who betrayed you, abandoned you, underestimated you, dismissed you, they know it. That's why they're losing sleep. That's why your name keeps appearing in their thoughts at 3 a.m. That's why they check your social media through fake accounts, ask mutual friends about you, bring you up in conversations where you're not relevant, because on some level they can't articulate. They know they touched something they shouldn't have touched. They know they played games with something that wasn't playing. They know they drew blood from something that doesn't bleed the way they expected. And now they're waiting for the retaliation, waiting for the revenge, waiting for you to do something. But here's the beautiful, terrible truth. You're not doing anything. You're not plotting. You're not scheming. You're not sitting in the dark planning their downfall. You're just existing, growing, evolving, becoming more of what you already were, and that terrifies them more than any revenge ever could. Because revenge is a transaction, revenge is understandable. Revenge is a language they speak. But what you're doing, this quiet ascension, this calm transformation, this refusal to engage with their frequency at all, it's not revenge, it's obsolescence. You're not fighting them. You're outgrowing the dimension where they exist. You're becoming forbidden. Let me explain what forbidden actually means in this context. It doesn't mean bad. It doesn't mean cursed. It means operating outside the established system. It means carrying an energy signature that doesn't match any of the approved patterns. It means existing in a way that makes the gatekeepers of normalcy uncomfortable because they can't categorize you, can't predict you, can't control you. You're the glitch in the matrix that proves the matrix exists. You're the variable that doesn't fit the equation. You're the note in the symphony that shouldn't work, but somehow makes everything else sound hollow without it. And the people who hurt you, they're stuck in the old frequency. They're still operating on the level where social rules and power games and manipulation tactics work. They're still playing chess while you've moved into a dimension where chessboards don't exist. Do you want to know why those 7 psychics refused? Do you want to know what they actually saw? They saw someone who died. Not physically, not literally, but died in the way that matters. Died to the old self, died to the need for approval, died to the fear of being misunderstood, died to the desperation for connection with people who can't hold your frequency. And when you die like that, when you let everything that wasn't real burn away, what's left isn't human in the way most people understand human. What's left is raw, unfiltered, undomesticated, unforbidden, which makes it forbidden. You're the person who went into the fire and came out as the fire. You're the person who drowned and became the ocean. You're the person who got buried and became the earth itself. And now when people reach out to read you, to understand you, to categorize you, they're not touching a person anymore. They're touching a force. And forces don't have feelings to manipulate. Forces don't have weaknesses to exploit. Forces don't have narratives that can be rewritten. Forces just are. But what about you? Right now, reading this, feeling this, what about you? Are you starting to recognize what I'm describing? Are you starting to see why nothing in your life is ever quite fit? Are you starting to understand why every relationship, every job, every social circle, every identity you've tried on has felt like wearing clothes made for someone else's body? Because you were never meant to fit. You were meant to break the mold. Not in the inspirational poster kind of way, in the actual, literal, uncomfortable way where your very existence challenges the foundations of how people think reality works. And that's lonely. Let's not pretend it isn't. It's profoundly, existentially lonely to exist at a frequency where most people can't sustain contact with you for long. It's lonely to be the person others come to when they need truth, but avoid when they want comfort. It's lonely to see through the performances everyone else believes are real. It's lonely to carry this, whatever this is, this forbidden energy that makes professional readers of energy refuse to read you. But here's what that loneliness actually is. It's not punishment. It's not a curse. It's protection. Because what would happen if you let normal people get close? If you let people operating on ordinary frequencies into your inner world, they'd either try to fix you, try to use you, or try to destroy you. Not out of malice necessarily, but because your existence threatens the carefully constructed reality they need to believe in to function. You're the living proof that the rules can be broken, that the system is optional, that the frequency everyone else thinks is the only frequency isn't. And people don't forgive that. Not really. They might admire it from a distance. They might be fascinated by it, but get too close. And the same people praising your uniqueness will be the first ones trying to clip your wings, dim your light, convince you that you're too much, too intense, too different. So that loneliness, that isolation, it's not happening to you. It's happening for you. It's the moat around the castle. It's the force field around the core. It's the price of admission to the frequency you operate on. And your enemies, the people who hurt you, they're on the other side of that moat, losing their minds. Because they thought they hurt someone normal. They thought they damaged someone who would break the way people usually break. They thought they left you destroyed, defeated, diminished. But you didn't break normal. You broke through. And now they can feel it. They can feel that something is wrong with their victory. They can feel that the person they hurt isn't crying in the dark anymore. They can feel that you're not even angry. And the absence of your anger is more terrifying than your rage ever could have been. Because anger is engagement. Anger is still caring. Anger is still being on their level. But what you're carrying now, this calm, this clarity, this complete and total indifference to their existence, it's not anger, it's transcendence. You've moved beyond them so completely that they've become NPCs in a video game you're not playing anymore. Background characters in a story that isn't about them. Names without weight, faces without power. And they know it. On some instinctual level they can't articulate, they know it. That's why they're obsessed. That's why they can't let you go. That's why your name keeps coming up. That's why they keep reaching out, stirring up old drama, trying to get a reaction. Because your indifference is proof that they lost, not the fight, the relevance. Now here's what most motivational content won't tell you. Here's the dark part that doesn't fit in inspirational Instagram posts. This power, this forbidden energy you carry, it's not always comfortable. It's not always pleasant. Sometimes it feels like being too awake in a world that's sleepwalking. Sometimes it feels like being too sober at a party where everyone else is drunk. Sometimes it feels like being the only person who can see the puppet strings while everyone else is focused on the show. And you can't unsee it. You can't go back. You can't return to the frequency you came from. That's the price. That's the cost. You gave up normal when you went through whatever you went through. You traded comfort for truth. You traded belonging for authenticity. You traded the warm illusion of connection for the cold clarity of seeing reality without filters. Was it worth it? That's not for me to answer. That's between you and the mirror at 3 in the morning. That's between you and the person you see when you close your eyes. That's between you and whatever force decided you needed to carry this particular frequency. But I'll tell you this, those 7 psychics who refused to read you, they made a choice. They chose their comfort over your mystery. They chose the known over the unknown. They chose safety over truth. And you? You don't get to make that choice anymore. You've already crossed the line. You've already seen what you've seen. You've already become what you've become. You're on the other side now, in the forbidden zone, in the space where the rules are different and the stakes are higher and the loneliness is real. But so is the power. So what do you do with it? What do you do with this energy that makes mystics refuse to read you? What do you do with this frequency that makes normal people uncomfortable? What do you do with this, whatever this is, this thing that lives in you now? You stop apologizing for it. First and foremost, you stop trying to dim it to make others comfortable. You stop explaining yourself to people who wouldn't understand the explanation anyway. You stop seeking validation from frequencies that can't recognize your value. You accept that you're forbidden. Not as a curse, but as a classification, a reality, a state of being. You accept that some spaces were never meant to hold you. Some people were never meant to understand you. Some conversations were never meant to include you. Not because you're not good enough, because you're operating on a level where those spaces, people, and conversations don't matter anymore. You let the people who hurt you stay obsessed. Let them lose sleep. Let them check your social media. Let them ask about you. Let them wonder. Because their obsession is proof that they lost something they didn't know how to value when they had it. And now they're stuck in the frequency where regret lives while you've moved on, to frequencies where their regret can't reach. You embrace the loneliness as protection. You embrace the isolation as sanctuary. You embrace the fact that very few people can sustain contact with what you've become. Because the few who can, the rare souls who operate on similar frequencies, they're worth more than thousands of shallow connections with people who would ask you to be smaller. And here's what happens next. Here's what those 7 psychics saw when they reached out and pulled back. They saw someone becoming something, not in the motivational sense, in the literal sense. Someone in the process of transformation from one state to another. Someone shedding the last pieces of their old frequency. Someone emerging from the cocoon, not as a butterfly, but as something that doesn't have a name yet. Something that makes the old categories obsolete. They saw someone who's going to change things just by existing, not through grand actions or dramatic gestures, but through the quiet, undeniable reality of their presence, through the way they make people question assumptions they didn't know they had, through the way they force growth in people who get too close, through the way they redistribute power just by refusing to play the old games. They saw someone dangerous, not to people, but to systems, not to individuals, but to the collective agreements about how reality works. And that's why they refused. Because reading you means taking responsibility for what they see and what they saw, what they felt. It's not something they wanted to be responsible for knowing, because knowledge is burden, and some knowledge changes you. Some truth can't be unlearned. Some frequencies, once you tune into them, you can't tune out of again. They chose ignorance, they chose comfort, they chose the known over the unknown. But you don't get that choice anymore. You're already in the unknown. You're already carrying the frequency they refuse to touch. You're already become the thing that makes professional mystics walk away. So let me ask you something, and answer honestly. Not for me, for yourself. Does it scare you? This thing you've become? This energy that's forbidden? This frequency that makes others uncomfortable? Or does it excite you? Because there's a part of you, a part you might not want to admit, that's thrilled by this, that loves being unreadable, that enjoys making people uncomfortable just by existing. That takes dark satisfaction in knowing your enemies can't sleep because of you, even though you're not doing anything to them. That's not evil. That's not wrong. That's proof you're still alive. That's proof you haven't been domesticated. That's proof you haven't let them turn you into something safe and small and predictable. You're wild, you're untamed, you're forbidden. And the world needs that, not for comfort, but for evolution. Because evolution doesn't happen in the safe zones, it happens at the edges, in the forbidden territories, in the spaces where the rules break down and new possibilities emerge. You're not broken, you're breaking through. You're not damaged, you're dangerous. Dangerous to the old ways, dangerous to the comfortable lies, dangerous to the systems that require people to stay small and scared and seeking permission. You're the permission, you're the proof. You're the living example that the cage was always unlocked. And your enemies, the ones losing sleep over you, they're not your enemies anymore. They're your evidence. Evidence that you've transcended. Evidence that you've evolved beyond their frequency. Evidence that whatever they took from you, whatever they destroyed, whatever they damaged, it wasn't the real you. It was the costume you were wearing, the mask you were holding, the performance you were giving. They destroyed the fake you, and unknowingly gave birth to the real you, the forbidden you, the you that makes psychics refuse to read, the you that makes normal people uncomfortable, the you that operates at frequencies where the old rules don't apply. So thank them. Not out loud, not where they can hear, but in the quiet of your own knowing, thank them. Because they broke you open. They shattered the shell. They forced the metamorphosis. They thought they were ending you. They were beginning you. They thought they were burying you. They were planting you. They thought they were writing your ending. They were writing your origin story. Now here's where we separate the ones who are really ready from the ones who just like the idea of being forbidden. Being forbidden isn't aesthetic. It's not a vibe you put on for social media. It's not a personality trait you add to your bio. It's a lived reality that comes with real costs and real consequences. It means accepting that you'll lose people. Not because you want to, but because they can't sustain contact with your frequency. It means accepting that you'll be misunderstood more often than you're understood. It means accepting that your truth will make people uncomfortable, and some of those people will hate you for it. It means accepting that you won't fit in most spaces, that most conversations will bore you, that most social interactions will feel like wearing a costume, that you'll spend a lot of time alone because solitude is better than pretending. It means accepting that the old metrics of success don't apply to you anymore, that you can't measure your worth by how many people like you or understand you or approve of you, that you have to find validation from internal sources because external validation from people on different frequencies is meaningless. Can you accept that? Can you embrace that? Can you look at the price tag of being forbidden and say yes anyway? Because if you can't, if you're still attached to being normal, being liked, being understood, being comfortable, then you're not forbidden. You're just temporarily displaced. You're still operating on the frequency where other people's opinions matter, where fitting in is the goal, where approval is the currency. But if you can look at the cost and say yes, if you can embrace the loneliness as protection, the isolation as sanctuary, the misunderstanding as proof you're operating beyond their comprehension, then you're ready. You're actually ready for what comes next. What comes next is radical authenticity, not the social media version, the real version, the version that makes people uncomfortable, the version that doesn't ask permission or seek approval or soften edges. What comes next is complete sovereignty, not independence. Sovereignty. The difference being that independence is freedom from something. Sovereignty is freedom to everything. It's operating from a place where you don't need their systems, their validation, their approval, their understanding. What comes next is influence without trying, because people at lower frequencies can sense power at higher frequencies even when they can't understand it. They feel it, and they're drawn to it or repelled by it. Either way, they're affected by it. Your presence becomes disruptive. Your silence becomes loud. Your indifference becomes magnetic. And your enemies, the ones who hurt you, they watch this transformation with growing horror because they thought they knew you. They thought they understood your limits. They thought they cataloged your weaknesses. They thought they wrote the story of who you were. But you're not who you were. You're not even who you are. You're who you're becoming. And what you're becoming, it's forbidden. Here's something nobody tells you about carrying forbidden energy. It attracts tests constantly. The universe, or whatever you want to call it, sends people and situations to test if you're really at the frequency you claim or if you're just performing it. Someone will try to drag you back into old drama. Someone will try to make you react. Someone will try to trigger the old wounds. Someone will offer you the exact thing you used to want before you evolved past wanting it. These aren't obstacles. They're confirmations, opportunities to prove to yourself that you've actually changed frequencies, that you're not pretending, that you're not performing, that you're actually operating at the level you've claimed. And every time you pass the test, every time you respond with indifference instead of anger, with boundary instead of engagement, with silence instead of explanation, you solidify the new frequency. You become more of what you're becoming. You move deeper into forbidden territory, until one day you realize the tests have stopped coming. Not because you're done evolving, but because you've moved so far beyond the old frequency that the tests can't reach you anymore. You're operating in a zone where the old rules, the old games, the old provocations, they don't exist. You become truly forbidden, unreadable, unreachable, untouchable by anything operating on lower frequencies. And that's when the real power emerges. Not power over people, power beyond people. Power that doesn't need to dominate or control or prove anything because it exists independent of external validation. You become the anomaly, the variable that doesn't fit, the energy that makes professional readers refuse to read, the frequency that makes normal people uncomfortable without knowing why. You become living proof that transformation is possible, that people can evolve beyond their circumstances, that the person who got hurt, betrayed, abandoned, underestimated, can become something those same people fear without even understanding why they're afraid. And your enemies watch this. They watch you glow. They watch you grow. They watch you move through life with an ease and confidence and power that wasn't there before. And they can't understand it. Because in their reality, the person they hurt should still be hurt, should still be damaged, should still be defined by what they did. But you're not in their reality anymore. You're in a different dimension entirely, a forbidden dimension where their actions, their opinions, their existence holds no weight. So let me ask you directly now. No more metaphors, no more poetry, just truth. Are you ready to be forbidden? Are you ready to accept that most people won't understand you, and the ones who do will be rare and precious? Are you ready to let go of the need to fit in, be liked, be normal? Are you ready to embrace the loneliness that comes with operating at a frequency most people can't sustain? Are you ready to be the person who makes psychics refuse to read? The person who makes normal people uncomfortable? The person who carries energy that doesn't fit in any approved category? Because if you're ready, if you're truly ready, then stop performing, stop explaining, stop apologizing, stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. Stop seeking validation from frequencies that can't recognize your value. Own it. Own the forbidden nature of what you've become. Own the fact that you're different, strange, intense, too much for most people. Own the fact that your energy signature doesn't match the approved patterns. Because that's not a flaw, that's not a curse, that's your power. You're not meant to be read. You're meant to be experienced by those brave enough to get close. You're not meant to be understood. You're meant to be felt by those operating on similar frequencies. You're not meant to fit in. You're meant to stand out as proof that the rules are optional. You're forbidden. Not by choice, by nature, by evolution, by whatever process broke you down and rebuilt you into something the old categories can't contain. And to the people who hurt you, the ones who thought they destroyed you, this is your message. You didn't destroy anything real. You destroyed an illusion, a performance, a mask. You destroyed the version of me that was trying to fit into your world, speak your language, play your games. You destroyed the version that still believed your approval mattered. Thank you for that. Because what emerged from those ruins, what rose from those ashes, what came out of that darkness, it's something you can't hurt, can't manipulate, can't control, can't even understand. It's forbidden. And now you're stuck wondering what you created. Stuck checking on me. Stuck losing sleep over someone who doesn't think about you at all. Stuck in a frequency where regret and obsession and fear live while I've moved on to frequencies where your existence doesn't register. You wanted to hurt me. You made me untouchable. You wanted to break me. You made me unbreakable. You wanted to diminish me. You made me forbidden. So keep wondering, keep watching, keep losing sleep, keep trying to figure out what happened, how the person you hurt became the person you fear. I won't explain it to you. Because you exist on a frequency where the explanation wouldn't translate anyway. I'll just keep existing, keep growing, keep glowing, keep operating at levels you can't reach. I'll just keep being forbidden, and you'll just keep being ordinary. Now to you, the one reading this, the one feeling this, the one recognizing yourself in every word, what's the weakest excuse you've been using to stay hidden? To dim your light? To pretend you're normal when you know you're not? Drop it below, write it out. Make it real by admitting it. Tell me in detail why you're still apologizing for being too much, too intense, too different. Tell me what you're actually afraid of losing if you fully embrace being forbidden. Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. You're not afraid of being rejected. You're afraid of being seen, really seen, for what you actually are. Something that doesn't fit the categories, something that makes people uncomfortable, something forbidden. But that fear, that's the last chain, the last excuse, the last reason to stay small. Cut it, now, here, in this comment section. Make it public, make it real. Admit what you've been hiding and why. Because the only thing more powerful than being forbidden is choosing to be forbidden, consciously, deliberately, without apology. So choose right now in the comments below. Are you forbidden? Or are you still pretending to be normal?